tomorrow back in the Bay Area. So we're going to talk about the connection between Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk, because Brock Purdy entered Philadelphia last season as a very good quarterback, but he's a different quarterback this year. He's better. His rapport, his connection with Brandon Aiyuk has gotten better. You're going to be staggered by how good some of these metrics are. We're also going to watch some tape as we go through this tape of last season, the fateful play on which Brock Purdy got hurt. Brandon Aiyuk was a target, and Deebo Samuel has talked about it. It's the center of a lot of 49ers Eagles trash talk. I think that fateful play could have gone a different direction for the 49ers had Purdy already possessed this season's skill set. He's improved a lot in between point A and point B, which is this return trip to Philadelphia. By the way, my mom right now, she's in Prague in the Czech Republic. It's where she's from. You might have seen some videos of mine from Prague back in May. The first snow has fallen in Prague. So my mom sent me some photos. I thought that some of you might want to see this. This is Charles Bridge. You see St. Vitus Cathedral and the castle up there on the hill, but you could see that the first snow has fallen on the bridge. Obviously, some magical shots from Prague. Cool stuff, right? I'm sure that you guys can enjoy that. Meanwhile, Nashville. Beautiful day today. Friend sent me some of this footage. Crisp, probably not as cold as Prague, but still cool. You could see Vanderbilt there underneath, and obviously the sunshine. So winter's taken over, but it's crisp in Nashville. Meanwhile, that's not Nashville. This is the first snow in Prague. Somebody could get a funny screen grab right here. Nashville. No, that doesn't look like Nashville. That's actually Prague, as sent to me by my mom. All right. Now that you guys are all paying attention, you're in the room. Brock Purdy, Brandon Aiyuk. First things first, I have to say that Brandon Aiyuk is not a replaceable player. Well, what do I mean by that? Take a look at this right here. So x-axis, that's separation grade. I know you can't see the label at the bottom, but it's PFF's grade, how well a receiver separates. So you want to be further to the right. Y-axis is catch point and yak grade. You want to be further up for your yak, yards after the catch. Where's Brandon Aiyuk? He's up here. Look how much further out and up he is than every other receiver in the NFL. So you can't just go and let Brandon Aiyuk walk and then expect to replace him in the draft, because there quite literally is nobody like him with the way that he separates, with the way that he delivers after the catch. On top of that, he has developed a special rapport with Brock Purdy. Why don't we start with the bad? We're going to start with last season's NFC Championship game against Philadelphia. This is the play on which Brock Purdy gets hurt. He gets blown up. All right, so rewind to the point of release. That was Hassan Reddick hitting him. We're going to pause it, and we're going to look to see where Brandon Aiyuk is at. Okay, right here. This is slightly before Purdy releases, slightly before Hassan Reddick hits him. Right here, you could see that Brandon Aiyuk, top of your screen at the 36-yard line, is already coming open on the corner route. He is breaking out toward the sideline. He has absolutely cooked James Bradbury, 24, the corner, who's going to be facing him again on Sunday. If Brock Purdy releases that ball right now, which would require a little bit more anticipation from Brock Purdy, if that happens, Brandon Aiyuk probably has a touchdown. Instead, Purdy threw it a little bit late, just a hair late, didn't step up in the pocket, threw a little bit later. Hassan Reddick hit him, and obviously that's where the UCL injury happened. So it would have taken just a little bit better rapport between Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk to make it happen. The gist of this play, though, and you just watch Brandon Aiyuk on this play now. Don't watch Purdy, watch Aiyuk. He's lined up as the inside wide receiver, just inside the 50-yard line, top of your screen. Watch him work against Bradbury here. Watch this beautiful route. Bradbury thinks he's going inside, a little deke. He's moving outside. That is awesome from Brandon Aiyuk. Again, slight rewind. Inside move, outside break. Bradbury is knocked out of his pants. Deebo Samuel talked about this very route from Brandon Aiyuk when he called James Bradbury trash.
Did you see the play that Brandon had? The second play of the game, he got hurt. Purdy got hurt.
Time out.
The separation, like, it's just like.
It's football. You going to make some plays? Man, you call him trash.
The separation. That's what Deebo Samuel is talking about. Did you see that separation? Yes, we saw that separation. All right. So it's a matter of taking advantage of that separation, right? And that's why we talk about how the rapport between Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk has evolved. So we're going to get to the payoff here, and we're going to watch some Seattle tape from the 49ers. This is the Aiyuk touchdown drive. So we're going to start before the throw to him, but we're going to see Brock Purdy working. Bootleg off the play fake, finds George Kittle in the flat, or has Deebo Samuel in the flat to get this drive moving. Deebo Samuel, speaking of him, he was speaking, that was right before the Super Bowl last year. Deebo on the crosser. Aiyuk is the deeper option. The correct option here, because Quandre Diggs was taken away, Aiyuk was the throw to Deebo Samuel. Good play from Brock Purdy as he's moving the 49ers down the field. Remember, at this point in the game, Seattle had generated a little bit of a comeback. They had scored some points. Pick six had happened on the tipped ball at the line of scrimmage. So the 49ers needed a counterpunch to put it away, and you're seeing that counterpunch in real time. We know that the 49ers love to run left. Trent Williams, Aaron Banks on that side. We also know that Philadelphia can defend the inside runs well. They've done a good job there, but they've struggled defending the edge, and I think they're going to struggle with this type of blocking. 49ers put a hat on a hat. Christian McCaffrey has good vision, and the 49ers move on to the 45-yard line. Next play, motion, Charlie Werner. Looks like it's a change of pace. Looks like they're going to Elijah Mitchell this time, who ran well, by the way. So many people keep on asking about Jordan Mason. I don't know why. Second best back on this team is Elijah Mitchell. This is good vision. They call him Drano for a reason. Always seems to find that hole. And on that play, no exception, close to a 10-yard gain. 9 yards picked up by Elijah Mitchell. Puts the 49ers in a high-leverage spot. You know, they have a lead. They decide they just want to keep the line moving. So Mitchell to the left side for the first down. Left side featured Aaron Banks, by the way, playing with that turf toe injury, but he's still mauling in there. I think Aaron Banks played a fine game for the 49ers, even though he was fighting through some pain. So here we go. 1st and 10 from the 31. This drive, move it along like a hot knife through butter for the 49ers. Pretty soon we're going to get the payoff. And the payoff is going to be Purdy to Aiyuk, and you're going to see how some of that rapport has improved entering this Philadelphia game. Another carry for Elijah Mitchell. 49ers just softening up that Seattle defense a little bit, getting that secondary to step up a little bit closer to the line, and then you could hit them over the top, which is obviously what ends up happening. Elijah Mitchell, a couple yards, sets up 2nd down and long from about the 28-yard line, 29-yard line. Purdy has an underneath option, doesn't take it. He's going for Brandon Aiyuk. Touchdown 49ers. Okay, let's go end zone angle first, and we're going to go back to the all 22. This is Brock Purdy throwing the dot as he's getting pressured. Oh my goodness. That looked a lot like Young to Owens against the Packers in the wild card game. Instead, it's Aiyuk, though, not Terrell Owens. Maybe a little bit of a bigger window, but still. I'm going to stop this a couple times. So Purdy has to buy some time. First things first, we're seeing much better pocket presence from Brock Purdy now than last season. He's not sprinting away from pressure. He's just angling away from pressure. He senses it coming from the right side. Bottom of the screen, right above my face, you see Colton McKivitz getting beaten by Boye Mafe. See the highlighter jerseys in front of the white jersey. So the right tackle is won. This is a clean beat. And Brock Purdy senses that already, so he's moving away. At this point, look down at the bottom right. Look to see where Brandon Aiyuk is at. They're in a deep zone coverage, Seattle is. Count the defenders past the 25-yard line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of 11 defenders. More than half of the defense is deep. The pressure is already beaten the linemen, and Brandon Aiyuk is nowhere near where he's going to catch this eventual touchdown. That's going to be in the middle of the field. So play it one more second to the Purdy throw. He is throwing to a spot. Look at this right now. He's throwing. He's getting hit by Mafe. If this were last year and Hassan Reddick rushing him against the Eagles, as I just showed, Purdy would have held on to that ball another half second and he'd be getting hit. And that's when the elbow injury happened. Instead, he's letting go of it right now against 6 defenders deep past the 20-yard line at this point, and he's throwing to that spot, that one soft spot in the middle of the field. So he's trusting Brandon Aiyuk to hit that one soft spot in the middle of the field. There's the throw, there's the dime, there's the touchdown. So that is irreplaceable stuff. Not only is Brandon Aiyuk irreplaceable, his bond with Brock Purdy is irreplaceable. Look, pressure bearing down on him. He throws to the spot. At this point, Brandon Aiyuk is nowhere near to where he is right now. Brandon Aiyuk streaks across the field and gets to the spot. So these two players believe in each other. They're obviously executing in very small windows. Look, 4 defenders around Brandon Aiyuk as he catches that football. And this right here, this is the difference, the biggest difference between this year's game when the 49ers visit Philadelphia and last year's matchup. In last year's matchup, Brock Purdy was good, but he was still developing elite rapport with the 49ers receivers. This year, it's gone up to another level. What you just saw was elite rapport between Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk. And if Brandon Aiyuk is separating like this, if he's at the very top right, and his yak grade is as high as this is, well, of course you want to get him the football, and of course it's going to be possible to get him the football. And, I mean, he's just one of the great weapons on top of Deebo Samuel, who's where you want him to be. Deebo Samuel's doing great here in terms of separation and yak. He's in the upper right. But Brandon Aiyuk is just absolutely insane. And I get it. He's going to be up for a new contract. 49ers are going to want to extend him. People are worried about their ability to do so. This is an A-list player that you're going to want to bring back if you're the 49ers. I would say that is not, right here. These are not replaceable numbers. Just awesome, awesome stuff from San Francisco. Okay, we have our 49ers Eagles analytics preview. This came out this morning on The Athletic. So I want you to go to the description, subscribe. I mean, this is the time to subscribe, right? We're hitting the stretch run of the season. The 49ers are about to play the Eagles. Titanic matchup in the Eastern time zone. And I mean, I went deep into this where we have a look into the team tiers. We have looks into how the 49ers are better than the Eagles analytically so far. If you're wondering why the 49ers are 2.5-point favorites, why the Eagles are the first team since the AFL-NFL merger to be 10-1 and underdogs on their home field, this article is going to answer those questions for you. Because, I mean, it truly is staggering how the 49ers have improved. They are, San Francisco is better now along the defensive line than they were even in 2019. They're producing more since Chase Young came over. They're producing more sacks, a better pressure rate, a better EPA from sacks over the past 3 games than they did even in the 2019 prime with Dee Ford. I would argue that the secondary is more mature and better. I would say, Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir combining to allow only 2 catches for 16 yards in that NFC Championship game goes to show you that the 49ers defensive backs should match up well with what A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are moving and bringing to the table. So the 49ers defense looks locked, loaded, ready to go. And the offense obviously is the top unit in the league. And that's probably where the 49ers are going to have their biggest advantage. It's the number 1 offense against Philly's number 14 defense, number 17 rush defense. Philly hasn't been good defending those runs to the edges. And you know what? They also haven't been good over the intermediate middle of the field. So a little bit shorter than what we saw on that throw from Brock Purdy to Brandon Aiyuk, but in between 10 and 20 yards past the line of scrimmage and in between the numbers or the hashes, especially, the 49ers love that area of the field. Why? Because in large part because that's where you could set up yards after the catch most effectively. You have the most room to run in either direction if you're a wide receiver. So the 49ers like to wear out that middle of the field. Brock Purdy is actually the most efficient quarterback in NFL history at targeting the middle of the field. Ever since they started logging this down and distance and field, area of the field type of stuff, nobody has thrown for more yards per attempt than Brock Purdy is on throws of 10 to 20 yards downfield. He's at 13 yards per attempt. Philadelphia has given up a QBR of over 95 on intermediate throws to the middle of the field. So that right there is, I think, where the Eagles are vulnerable. I don't think they have great safety play. They had to go out and trade for Kevin Byard, an older safety from Tennessee, who's a good player, but obviously the Eagles needed to shore something up there. I don't think their linebackers are great in coverage. I think the 49ers often do expose linebackers. And you heard Deebo Samuel talking. That was, and he doesn't regret it, that was around the time of the Super Bowl. The 49ers really think they could beat James Bradbury, the corner, and they did last year with Brandon Aiyuk. But Brock Purdy's anticipation, which I've showed you over the course of this video, the growing rapport between him and Brandon Aiyuk is going to be absolutely critical, because at the end of the day, this Eagles pass rush is, it might be a little bit weakened, but it's still getting on quarterbacks fast. And the 49ers' biggest weakness is their pass protection and their offensive line. Hassan Reddick is going to be working against right tackle and whatever tight end the 49ers might put on that side. So Colton McKivitz needs to roll up his sleeves, get ready for a big day. You're seeing a lot of pressure coming against the right side. But that touchdown to Brandon Aiyuk showed you that Brock Purdy is very capable of getting away and buying some extra time from that pressure through his subtle movements in the pocket, through his nuanced mastery of what's going on. That's how he has turned poor pass protection into top level efficiency. That's why Brock Purdy is probably the most deserving player in the NFL of the MVP award right now, because he's the only QB that's been able to do that. There's been no other QB in the league that's been able to take pass protection as shaky as the 49ers and deliver efficiency as good as what Brock Purdy is doing right now. It's not a legacy game in Philadelphia, but it's a game that could change a lot of narratives. And Brock Purdy can show that he's made progress over last season, where he was holding on to that ball a tick too long against the Philadelphia Eagles. Those of you just joining, got the first snow in Prague. My mom sent this to me. She's out there for about a week. That's on Charles Bridge. Just wanted to show this one more time, since I know the crowd is just filtering in. So over there in Central Europe, your first snow in Prague. Beautiful city to visit. We've done lives, like 49ers lives from this bridge really early in the morning. It was 9 hours later on the West Coast. And that was back in May. You can go and look those up. Those are still on the channel. But please do check those out. And please do check out this piece, 49ers and the Eagles matchup. Taking a look at that from an analytic perspective. The link is in the description. Okay, 49ers Q&A. It's time to roll. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. All right, I know it's probably going to take you guys a couple seconds to get some questions in, so I'm doing some scrolling, seeing what everybody is up to. The hope for the 49ers is that they are indeed just on another level than Philadelphia. The team tier charts and the tape, that all suggests it. Philadelphia has been winning a lot of close games. The 49ers have been winning a lot of blowouts. I think that's the difference between these two teams. And I think that you're hearing it from some people who know the game well. They think it's possible the 49ers go in and win in a commanding fashion against the Eagles. And that might be what it takes, because Philadelphia has got a lot of belief in itself in these close games. So maybe you just don't want to let them hang around. You go in there, blow the doors off. That could be what shifts the balance of power in the NFC. Post your questions. I wouldn't say they're bad linebackers, Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham for Philadelphia. I just think that linebackers in general are weaker against the 49ers than any other team, because the 49ers have so much adaptability to beat them in coverage. So I wouldn't say bad linebackers. I would just say that's where the 49ers can make some hay. I do think that the way that Philly plays, they do some wide nine action. I think that with their corners, I think they're stronger than their safeties for sure. And with teams attacking the middle of the field a lot, I think that's where Philly's been weakest, right? Over a 95 QBR allowed into that intermediate portion of the field, 10 to 20 yards downfield. And that's where Brock Purdy has actually been his most efficient, NFL record efficient at 13 yards per attempt so far. How does the 49ers O-line stack up against Philly? I mean, to me, that's the toughest matchup of the game for the 49ers, right? Philadelphia has been better than most teams' offensive lines with their defensive front. So Hassan Reddick, It's going to be a tough matchup against whoever's trying to block him on the right side. Josh Sweat coming off the other side. They still have Brandon Graham, who's in his 12th season in the league, or maybe his 10th season in the league. Fletcher Cox is in his 12th. Philadelphia's got Jalen Carter on the inside. A big defection from Philly was Javon Hargrave, who's now with the 49ers. That's made the 49ers stronger, and I think it's made Philly a little bit weaker because Jalen Carter's a good-looking rookie, but he's not a veteran like Javon Hargrave, who was so big for Philly there in the middle. Anyway, you've got dudes across the line for the Eagles, and you know that the 49ers have some shakiness on the right side. So Brock Purdy's had to overcome a lot of the 49ers O-line shakiness. He's going to have to overcome it a little bit more probably moving forward. So it's a documented ability of Purdy's to succeed in a game like this, but it's never easy. And it's not people don't think it's the most sustainable thing when the 49ers have had the struggles that they've had along the offensive line, but it's just what they have to live with. And it's what a lot of the league is having to live with defensive lines right now, just in general, being ahead of O-lines across the NFL. Do you think they'll rotate Feliciano and Burford like they did with Brunskill and Burford last year? Yeah, I mean, they've been planning to do that. I don't know if they're going to start against Philly, but you've gotten both Feliciano and Burford into games at this point, with Feliciano filling in for Aaron Banks and then filling in for Burford against Seattle. So Feliciano now knows all the right guard mechanisms, and you've tested him there. So I think that it's not a bad time to move to that platoon. The 1989 49ers most famously did that with some of their offensive linemen. They would rotate them. And one of the reasons they did it, maybe the main reason they did it, was they keep guys fresh, because offensive linemen get tired too over the course of the game. So if you don't have a standout player at right guard, but you don't want to give up on Spencer Burford's development, a platoon is a nice happy medium, because at least you can have a fresher lineman in that right guard spot, and you think that might be able to lead you to more efficiency from that position. There's about a 60% chance of rain on Sunday. It's not as high and prevalent looking as it was for Eagles-Bills, but I agree with you. The 49ers are favorites. They're favorites for a reason. You'd rather have it be dry weather. You don't want to add another variable. So we're just going to keep analyzing that. There's no reason to ask too many questions about the rain, because it's either going to rain or it's not. The 49ers are either going to have to deal with it or not. A favorite, though, never likes adverse weather conditions. No, I don't see the 49ers bringing in Marcus Peters. The guy, we wasn't putting in full effort on a lot of plays with the Raiders this year. And I don't even know if Marcus Peters would be okay with going to a practice squad. Because if Jason Verrett's not okay with it, which sounds like, or I wouldn't even say sounds like, I'm just guessing that's the holdup with the 49ers. Why would Marcus Peters be okay with it? Verrett's a hard worker that's never taken a rep off anywhere. And I mean, the 49ers would love to have somebody with his perseverance, with his attitude in the locker room. I think Marcus Peters has put some other stuff on tape this year that the 49ers wouldn't be as happy with. Does Philly have a disciplined pass rush? This is a good question. Wow. Everybody's talking about Jalen Hurts scrambling. Philly also stretches it out, pins their ears back, goes after the passer. They can be a little bit vulnerable to running quarterbacks as well. Guess who's top 10 in EPA generated by quarterback runs this year? Brock Purdy. This might be a game where Brock Purdy can pick up some yardage with his legs. That's a really, really good question that nobody is talking about. I think the 49ers have a chance to prove that they're a markedly better team than Philadelphia this weekend. I see a lot of this talk starting to pick up now that people are looking at some of the advanced metrics, which do indicate that the 49ers are better than the Eagles. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, I wrote about it today. Link is in the description. Great time to subscribe for The Athletic. I think our $1 a month sale might be done. I was talking about that a lot, but I think we've got like a 19 a year sale or something now. So it's like $150 a month. So still check it out. It is in the description. Fatigue indeed should play a part here. The 49ers have a rest advantage, which is extremely rare for them. The schedule was not kind to the 49ers this season. Well, they have an extra rest having played on Thursday. Philadelphia last played on Sunday, a few days after that. Philly also played 5 quarters. The 49ers won in a blowout against Seattle. So Philly, I think 92 defensive snaps against the Buffalo Bills. 49ers were nowhere near that level when they played against Seattle. I wouldn't feel much different about the Eagles linebacker core if they added Darius or Shaquille Leonard. I guess he's going by Shaq now. This guy, I mean, all-pro player in the past, but people don't acknowledge that he had back surgery, which is a huge reason why the Colts let him go. And he hadn't been the same player since he had back surgery. And I don't think that he would be ready to go within Philadelphia's system, at least at full capacity by this week. Should always be worried about the screen pass game against a team that rushes really aggressively. That being said, I think the Eagles also, the Eagles are big time pass rushers as well. So I think that the 49ers might be able to run some screens in the opposite direction against Philadelphia. This question, do you think that Shanahan has been running a specific game plan to activate against the Eagles ever since the January game? You have specific game plans against any opponent. You have to be very specific in the NFL because the margins are so thin. So I do think that there are things that the 49ers haven't shown yet that they've been waiting to show for the Eagles. But you do that for every team in the league. You're planning ahead at all times, right? So maybe a little bit more so for Philadelphia just because you know that this is going to be one of your tougher tests on the season. But I don't think that it's that dramatic. I don't think that it's like, oh my God, we have this whole bin of stuff for the Eagles. I think that you do this on a weekly basis in the National Football League. Well, at least the Philadelphia playing field is natural grass. I don't think anything's going to be great in the rain. It's hard for a playing field to be great in the rain. Like I said, no favorite, and the 49ers are favorites in this game, wants bad weather. You'd rather have a fast track, and the 49ers have a fast team, clean weather, and you just line up and let them play. That being said, it's just sometimes you don't get that you just can't, beggars can't be choosers in football. You play the game when it's scheduled to be played. I think almost every NFL quarterback ever has had trouble gripping the football when it's wet. Some quarterbacks are better at it than others. The really, really tall guys usually have bigger hands. So Josh Allen had a big game against Philadelphia last week. But at the end of the day, Brock Purdy in a wet game against Seattle in the playoffs threw for 300 plus last year. I think you give more credit for his struggles against Cleveland where it rained to the Browns' historically good defense at home this year than you do to the rain, right? So it's about the matchup. And the 49ers and the Eagles, I think the matchup favors the 49ers offense. Hell yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. I don't think the 49ers will play as much man coverage this week to be able to trail A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith around just because Jalen Hurts is so productive with his legs. And when you play man, you're caught a lot of the times as a defensive back with your back to the QB, and the QB can just take off. So you'd rather have your chest to the QB so you're looking at him without having to turn your head. And because of that, I think you're probably going to lean toward playing more zone if you're the 49ers. So I think you're going to use them. Use the formula you did last year if they're the 49ers defensively. And just don't commit the penalties. The 49ers had some personal fouls in that game. And obviously they broke down defensively later because they weren't getting offensive support. But in general, the game plan was really good for the 49ers defensively. And I think that's what Jalen Hurts has to prove that he can beat. And you have an even better defensive line if you're San Francisco now. So last year, Charvarius Ward and Diamond Lenore gave up only 16 yards on 2 catches. That's the stat that not enough people are talking about. So it's going to be, I think the 49ers take a page out of that formula. Thank you, Steven. First and second down defensive efficiency is vital for the 49ers. Absolutely vital. You don't want to get into 3rd down and 1, 4th and 1 on defense against Philadelphia because that play has proven to be essentially unstoppable so far. We're talking about the tush push. So 2nd and 10 is something the 49ers preach a lot. They want no gain on 1st down. Incompletions are huge. And then that sets you up with a 2nd down situation where you want to force at least nothing closer, right, than a 3rd and 4. So I think that's a really good point. Use Debo under center and tush push formation. Oh, you mean the 49? No, you're not going to do that. You can't. Debo Samuel, yes, he's a versatile player, but on the offensive side of the ball, generally running backs and receivers are not trained to handle snaps. So that could lead to a fumble. It could lead to another disaster. There's one offensive player on the 49ers out of the skill positions that is trained to handle snaps, and that is Kyle Juszczyk, because he played quarterback in high school back in the day. But I don't think that Debo Samuel is trained to handle a snap, especially under center. I don't think anybody else is. So we've seen Juszczyk on a sneak under center, and obviously Brock Purdy can do it. But no, you're not going to use Debo Samuel in that role. Thank you. Appreciate you, Lauren. Juice. Love it. Feels like a Jennings game. Juwan Jennings scored his first career touchdown in Philadelphia in 2021. George Kittle retrieved the football for him. Remember that game? It was right before the end of the half. Garoppolo hit Brandon Aiyuk on the little crosser, and Aiyuk streaked down the whole field, and then they found Juwan Jennings for the touchdown. That was a gritty game that the 49ers won in Philly. It was before the Eagles turned into who they are now, but Nick Sirianni was the coach already, and the Eagles were evolving into the team that they are now. Okay, post your questions. Jason Tillman hopes that the Eagles lose with a tush-push fumble. The 49ers defense is going to be determined by what Philadelphia lines up in. It always is. That's the case in the whole NFL. I don't think the 49ers are going to do anything particularly tricky as far as alignments. I do think they've been developing their coverage disguises on the back end. And that's going to be key because Jalen Hurts holds on to the football. He's going to try to strain the coverages with whatever his offense is running. So if you could throw out some disguises out there, you might be able to get an interception or two. He's thrown some picks this year. You might be able to get him to pull the trigger a little bit earlier, especially if the pass rush is harassing him, and you might be able to grab a takeaway. 49ers currently lead the league in turnover differential. I feel there's absolutely a rivalry between the 49ers and the Eagles. Anytime you square off in a big playoff game, and then there's some talk, and then you're both good the next year, which is the case, that's perfect breeding grounds for a rivalry. Makes it exciting on Sunday. All right, cool. Everybody, thank you for joining. It was a fun show. We got to go through a lot of stuff. Do check out the 49ers Eagles analytics preview. That's going to be linked in the description, and we'll talk to everybody soon. A lot more coming. 49ers and Eagles on Sunday, but a whole week of practice awaits first.